What if Iran's biggest danger is not America, but its own people? What if the next big global crisis doesn't start with bombs, but with high prices, protests, and social media posts? And what if the United States is already preparing, quietly, just in case? This story has already started. Let's break it down. Simply, will there be USA versus Iran in near future? For decades, Iran's government focused mainly on ideology, regional power, and military influence. At the same time, Iran's domestic economy suffered. Billions were spent on security institutions, external conflicts, strategic confrontation, while inside Iran, private investment stagnated. Youth unemployment rose. Currency stability collapsed. Sanctions did not create these weaknesses, they exposed them. By the time pressure intensified, Iran had very little economic flexibility left. For many people in Iran, anger toward the Khamenei leadership comes from a very simple place. Life has become exhausting. Every month, food costs more, rent goes up, and savings mean less. Parents struggle to provide for their families, while young people work hard but see no future ahead of them. Many feel trapped in a system where effort no longer leads to opportunity. At the same time, they watch the government spend heavily on power, security, and foreign conflicts, while ordinary citizens are told to endure more sacrifices. When people finally speak out, they are often met with force, arrests, and silence instead of solutions. Over time, this creates a deep sense of betrayal, a feeling that those in power live comfortably, while the public carries all the pain. For many Iranians, this is no longer just about politics. It is about dignity, survival, and being heard. As life kept getting harder, something inside the country began to crack. At first, the protests were small, scattered, almost invisible. Anger spread through phones, not streets. One video, one message, one moment of rage, shared thousands of times. Before authorities could react, the protests multiplied, not in one city, not on one day, but everywhere, all at once. There was no leader to negotiate with, no movement to ban, no single enemy to crush, just crowds, ordinary people, with nothing left to lose. And when a government faces a protest with no face, no head, and no clear end, control stops being a policy and becomes a gamble. Then came the moment that changed the temperature of everything. Reza Pahlavi, the son of Iran's last king, broke his silence. He posted a public message on X. And this wasn't just another tweet. He openly stood with the protesters. That mattered deeply, because his name carries history, because his name reminds people of Iran before religious rule. Because for many, his name represents a past that feels distant, but possible. He didn't ignite the protests. The anger was already there, but what he did was far more powerful. He gave the angry, the tired, and the desperate something they didn't have before. An alternative. In moments like these, protests don't survive on numbers alone. They survive on meaning. And in history, symbols don't just inspire crowds. They redefine what people believe can happen next. And this one felt different. Reza Pahlavi didn't just express support anymore. According to his public posts, he urged people to focus on key provinces and important locations.
ما دیگر صرفاً آمدن به خیابان نیست. هدف آمادگی برای تسخیر مراکز شهرها و حفظ آنهاست.
To protesters, it sounded like direction. To the government, it sounded like escalation. Because this wasn't about anger anymore. It was about control of space. In moments like this, words stop being words. They become signals. Signals that unrest is no longer random. Signals that crowds might begin to move with purpose. Signals that chaos could turn into coordination. For a government already nervous, this is the nightmare scenario. Not one city, not one protest, but pressure building across regions all at once. Whether intended or not, the message changed how the situation was perceived. The protests were no longer just about survival. They now carried the shadow of something much bigger. And once that line is crossed, history shows. Governments rarely respond with patience. As protests grew, police and military forces were sent in. When crowds are large and emotions are high, mistakes happen. Orders get confused. Innocent people get hurt. When citizens are killed by their own government, the story changes completely. It stops being a local issue. The whole world starts watching. Around this time, people online noticed something strange. For a short time, Iran appeared online with its old flag. From before the 1979 revolution, the image spread fast. Later, X explained it was not political and not intentional. But in reality, once people see a symbol, explanations don't matter much. Supporters felt encouraged. The government felt challenged. Now look at what happened next. The U.S. Air Force's E-4B Doomsday plane was seen in Los Angeles and Washington. This plane is used only when the U.S. prepares for extreme situations. Officials did not say it was because of Iran. But such planes are not moved without reason. At the same time, U.S. military planes moved toward the Middle East. Iran announced stronger defenses. This doesn't mean war has started. It means everyone is getting ready. Donald Trump has always taken a tough stand on Iran. He doesn't talk much about negotiations. He talks about human rights, strong pressure, regime responsibility. If violence increases, Trump's message becomes simple.
Very seriously, the military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options.
One thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all of his options on the table, and airstrikes would be one of the many options that are on the table for the commander-in-chief. Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran.
This crisis doesn't start in Washington. It starts in Iranian homes, with empty wallets and rising anger. But when protests grow, symbols appear, leaders speak, and the U.S. prepares, a local problem can turn into a global turning point. What happens next depends on how Iran reacts, how people respond, and how far the world is willing to go. This is not history yet, but history often begins exactly like this.